Hey folks, welcome. Here we discuss real stories by real people. Today we have the story of a man who finds out his wife has been cheating on him and he's trying to deal with what comes after. Let's see how it goes. Story 1. I'm 21 and she's 18. We married so she could receive my military benefits for school and such. She didn't know about these things until after we were married. I noticed a real change in mood about 2 weeks before I found out. About a month ago, I was with my wife at her parents' house in preparation for her wisdom teeth surgery. That night was strange. I had a rough week and felt down. I've had issues with trust before. She has lied to me about her smoking weed, which was a problem with us considering my military background, and the fact that she had been in serious trouble for it before with the law. We had been dating for a year and a half before we got married. Anyways, that night, she had asked me why I wouldn't touch her, and I told her because I felt like I wasn't good enough for her. After sleeping on the couch with her for a short while, I woke up after a terrible dream of her with someone else. She asked me what my dream was because I had apparently been shaking and breathing heavily in my sleep. I didn't tell her. We both went to bed. The next morning after her surgery, I went back to get her with her father and aunt. She was coming off anesthesia and was being very aggressive. She wanted to leave and wouldn't let anyone touch or help her. We had asked the nurse if her depression medication may have caused the reaction, and she said she hadn't seen that kind of reaction before, even with those who took such medication. Regardless, we left to go to the DMV. She was on her phone the entire time. She wouldn't talk to me. When we arrived at the DMV about 30 minutes later, I checked her phone. She had numerous texts with a fake name. I found messages, pictures, everything. The first message between the two reading, "Hello, mistress." I thought it was a female at first, then found out otherwise quickly. I went into the DMV and asked her father to unlock the car so I could get my CCW, as I was going to have a friend pick me up to remove myself from the situation. In case you're wondering, my CCW is a Glock 19 pistol. No worries, I did not have any suicidal or homicidal intentions. He followed me out. I got my CCW and told him I had to leave. He asked me what was wrong and I told him it would be better if I just left. Unfortunately, my things were at her house, locked, and no friends could be there within a reasonable time frame. She came out of the building and I saw her from the other side of the parking lot. I saw her and waited in the car. As soon as I saw her, I threw my band on the ground and said the fake name of the man she was having an affair with. I immediately collapsed to the ground. I couldn't walk, so I drug myself to the grass to a tree. She just looked at me. I only said why, and she said, "I don't know." I had to ride with her back in the car, staring out the window. She tried texting me, but I just put my phone on the seat. It was the longest and worst 2-hour car ride of my life back to her house. When we arrived, I got my things and she asked, "So this is it? We're getting a divorce?" I said, "What else do you want me to say?" and walked to the door. I politely said goodbye to her aunt and she came in behind me and said, "Don't worry, you won't be seeing him again." I tried so hard not to say anything, but I couldn't hold back. I turned to her aunt and said, "I won't be back because your niece has been cheating on me, and that we have been married for the past month and a half." Her aunt was one of the few who did not know of our self-uniting marriage we had. For the next few hours, I was fueled by pure rage. I was driving recklessly, not caring about my safety or anyone else's. That scares me looking back at how I was. I'm not that kind of person at all. But I had lost myself and everything in that moment, so I figured if I lost control of the car and things ended, it wouldn't be the worst thing that happened that day. After slightly settling down, I met with her about 6 hours later. We discussed what happened. After an hour of nowhere and her admitting to everything, the affair, the weed, the lies, I asked her if she was proud of what she did. She responded with, "I'm not proud," but admitted she felt good I didn't know, and she wasn't getting caught. After that, things went black again. This was not the woman I fell in love with and married. I told her I had to leave and she asked me for a kiss, for a hug, to give her another chance. I said no and immediately left. Cheating is the one thing we both agreed would never happen. My parents had been through a nasty divorce because of it, as had hers. She would even say, if you ever cheated on me, I would kill her and you. I thought it was a joke on her part, but she's accused me of cheating in the past. This is a throwaway account, so I have no reason to lie. I never once did or thought of it. I'm a man of my word, and it's all a man has. If a man's word is worthless, the man is worthless. I live by that phrase. The affair had taken place for 2 weeks of actual intimacy, and she had been with him for a month, talking to him and smoking weed with him. Since the past month, I've been trying to find a reason why she did it. I've asked her. She has told me it was her and I did nothing wrong. I gave her everything I could, but it wasn't enough. Because if I was, this would have never happened. She said the weed started again after we had a fight about her not taking her medication and I called her out on it. She was becoming closed out and wouldn't really talk with me. No real conversation, at least. And that's where she says she started smoking with that kid. She wrecked her car while I was at training and called me. 2 weeks before I found out about the affair. She told me a lie about where she had been, probably driving high. That night, the kid kissed her and she let him and said he loved her. She didn't tell me, nor did she space herself from him. She has been texting me and calling since I found out. She wants me to give her another second chance. I've told her I can't, the trust is gone. I'm currently at a 2-week training for the National Guard, 8 days in. She's been trying to guilt me into talking to her. I actually didn't respond until one night during training I must have, but dialed her while shooting twice. I saw texts about how she couldn't answer and she was at work. I didn't know I butt dialed her until then, and I said I didn't mean to and that it was my bad, not acknowledging any of her texts. It may be cold, but I can't train with live ammunition next to my team if they're worried about my state of mind. When I get on the firing line is one of the few places I can just shut my mind off and do what I'm supposed to do and only focus on that. Regardless, I responded to her guilt-ridden texts and finally told her off. I've not said a bad word about her even to this day. I refuse to do that to someone I loved and still do in a way. I told her to stop trying to make me feel guilty and to leave me alone until I was at least done with training. I felt so free, so liberated, that I could finally tell her to leave me alone and not buckle and give in to one of her messages. She was the girl I lost my virginity to at 19, and she had been with many people up to that point, including 2 of my best friends. I chose to look past it and begin dating her. Never resented her or judged her for her past. I've never been one to just go out and try to get laid. After this, though, and a month of depression, I decided it was time for me to experience life beyond what I had. I began messaging a girl who had shown interest in me for years, but I was dating my wife and did not speak with her beyond the occasional "hello, how are you doing?" when I would see her at my college campus. This turned into a list-driven motive, which I didn't think I would do. I got a picture of this girl with a ring on her finger and my stomach instantly dropped and twisted. She tried to say she isn't engaged, but I looked on her Facebook and she has pictures with a ring on her left hand. Not the right, like she had sent after I asked if that was an engagement ring. I'm not talking to her at all anymore because it makes me sick to my stomach. I can't seem to understand why I had to find out my wife had an affair, why I feel guilt about not giving her another chance, why I decided to begin talking to another woman, or why that woman had to be engaged and lie to me about it and try to rendezvous with me. I'm not a perfect guy, but I treated my wife with respect and quite literally like gold during our entire relationship. I'm scared that somewhere in all of this I lost sight of who I am, and now it just keeps coming back to bad things. My friends tell me that it was out of my control. Bad things happen to good people. I didn't deserve it. But it seems like through each corner I pass, karma or something is just waiting to knock me back down. I'm not one to share feelings or to feel depressed, but I have to admit, this event has completely thrown me down a hole which I don't think I'm climbing out of no matter how hard I try. I question if I made the right choice in not giving her another chance. I don't regret anything in my life, not even falling in love with and marrying who I thought was the one. but it would seem that I'm doing wrong at this point. I'm sorry that you're going through this. It sucks. Unfortunately, the reality is that it's gonna hurt for a while, whether you're with her or not. It doesn't sound like there's anything really tying you to your wife other than your emotions, i.e., no kids. If you decide to give her another chance, you'll both have to put in hard work every day for the rest of your lives. It's an extremely difficult and hard path to be on. You talk about guilt as if you had a role to play in her infidelity. You didn't. There's nothing that you did or didn't do that made her have an affair and choose to lie to you repeatedly. It concerns me that a part of you is contemplating working things out with her so that you can prove you're good enough to make her happy. That you can save her. You can't. Focus on yourself, build yourself, and learn to love yourself. You need to love yourself more, OP, so that you can realize that your ex is bad for you and that you deserve better. Story 2. My wife and I got married last February after a short period of cold feet from her side and an assurance from her after that she was sure. She also told me that her best friend, another guy, is just a friend, despite him buying her jewelry. And them sending emojis such as these to each other. Kisses and hearts. I generally don't have a problem with platonic friends sending each other stuff like that. But not if it's completely out of character, which it is for both of them since they're intense introverts. After she asked for a break so that she can take some time to herself, which I agreed to, I noticed that she was spending even more time with him. And I told her that I didn't understand because I felt that she was allowing him to court her even more so now. I confronted her about it and she started hinting that she's not sure that she still wants this relationship and that he gets her. We remained on not coming to any conclusions just yet, but I told her that if she wants space, it would probably be better if we didn't live together for a while. So I've been staying with a friend for the time being. This was a little over a month ago. Shortly after leaving, I found out that she'd been staying with him, to which I confronted her. She swore that nothing happened, and I was inclined to believe her, and I told her that I want to start divorce proceedings. However, I asked for that so that I could divorce and leave. I would have to leave the country in that case. The second we decide to break it off, without having to worry about the 60-day minimum separation requirement. I did tell her though that I still want us to work it out and told her that if and when she realizes she wants the same, to give me a call. Fast forward to last week. We started talking more often again and we tried to spend time as friends and see where that would take us. And then I found that she's been dating him since the day after I asked for the divorce proceedings to get started. She was saying that it isn't serious for her. He's leaving himself for a job next month, and that she'll probably break things off with him since she still had feelings for me. We had an argument that night, and the day after, this past Friday, I went over early morning with donuts and coffee as a peace offering. And she told me that she was about to leave for a 4th of July weekend trip with him until Tuesday. This means she took off work Friday and Tuesday, but she had told me a month earlier that she couldn't do that when I proposed we get away for a weekend together. I wasn't worth taking off work for, but he was. Yesterday, I went to the apartment to pack things up and I found out she's been fooling around with him in my bedroom. We had been sleeping in separate bedrooms until we worked things out. I found empty beer bottles and a shirt that is definitely not hers in it. I had offered her to stay in my room because the other bedroom had bed bugs, but I didn't intend for her to fool around with him in it. My heart is in pieces. I can't even look at another woman without feeling bad, and she's running around with another man. And worst of all, she justified this with the statement, "Well, when you moved out, you stopped fighting for me." It was her who asked me to give her space. I still wanted this. I know I need to leave her, but I really still love her. We have no children, so that complication's not there. But I really thought she was going to be the one I would have children with one day. I can't spend a day without thinking about her being on this trip with him right now doing God knows what. And my pulse and blood pressure has been through the roof. I could really use some advice. I've suggested it all, above all counseling, but she refuses. I'm sorry this is happening to you, OP, but your wife isn't serious about your marriage. She's obviously playing you and her AP. She's bouncing in between you two because she knows you truly love her and you won't leave her. So burst her bubble and leave. Divorce her and cut her off. People who take their partners for granted will continue to do so until the partner stops allowing themselves to be taken for granted. You shouldn't be your wife's second option. You should be her first. You shouldn't have to fight for your wife. Marriage means you two are one now. I'm sorry, it's hard, but you have to leave, OP.